I've received insider secrets from an ex-MetaZoo employee. And in the end, there's an important takeaway that many commentators seem to have missed in all of this. So make sure you stick around till the end. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the TCG Buyers Club. My name's Gray and I buy cardboard. So here's the deal. I was contacted by an ex-MetaZoo employee who was asked to remain anonymous, and they shared with me a number of really interesting details about life inside MetaZoo during the rise and fall of the company. This information really fills in a lot of the gaps that I just didn't have before about what it was like inside the business and what just went wrong along the way. But before I go any further, I have to be clear. All of this is alleged information from this source and my additional analysis and speculation on top. So please take that into consideration as we get into this. So in the beginning, it sounds like working at MetaZoo was an amazing place to be. My contact said it was a dream come true. They were a huge fan of cryptids and mythology, and they were just super excited about a trading card game that brings that all together. In fact, they said they weren't even that knowledgeable about trading card games, really only having exposure to Hearthstone, but just loving the topic and the premise and the excitement that it brought to them. They mentioned that they were involved relatively early. Now, I'm not going to share any of the specific details about the timing or even what they did within the company just to help maintain their anonymity, but it sounds like they were involved for quite some time, and they did share some really fascinating insights from the journey along the way. In addition to being a fan of cryptids, they also mentioned that they were just a really big fan of the people at the company. It was a bunch of other nerds just like them, and they were super warm and welcoming. Sounds like at the beginning, when it was a small business and just getting started, there was a ton of positivity. They also mentioned at that time being able to be involved in some of the decision making and seeing a lot more of the business as it was operating. But then it all changed. And my contact couldn't give me an exact point at which they thought they saw it change, but they did say that it was after Nightfall, which makes a lot of sense. Prior to Nightfall, there was so much excitement and enthusiasm for the game. All the sets were flying off shelves, but with Wilderness and UFO, we started to see the print runs ramp up and the demand start to dive. And it makes sense that as the market dynamics changed for the product, that the business environment started to get more stressed and stressful for the employees. It's super easy to keep everyone happy and motivated when everything is going well, but when things turn can often be the breaking point, especially if there were already cracks forming and issues in the foundation of the business. And this was the point where they said the job just kind of became a nightmare. And a lot of the reason for that centered around the management, and especially Mike, who seemed to be a bottleneck for a massive amount of information and processes within the business. They said that they could be waiting on Mike for days at a time for answers just to help them do their job, but he would be completely absent. And allegedly, when he would get back to them, it would often be more criticism about maybe the lack of progress that was made versus being able to equip them to actually do the job as was expected of them. And this became really stressful for them and some of their teammates. Ultimately, they said there just weren't a lot of processes in place. A lot of things that had to get done needed some input from Mike and other leaders. So you can imagine that this was really difficult for them and the team. And look, I think a lot of what was expressed to me kind of validates what a lot of people from the outside were thinking and feeling looking at that business. It always felt like there were just some fundamental issues with how the company was being run, and it seems like there's a kernel of truth to that. While it would be super easy to point fingers and blame during all of this, I want to acknowledge something I think is super important. Running any business is extremely challenging, let alone running a collectibles business during a once-in-a-lifetime collectibles boom. Now, this doesn't excuse Mike and the rest of the leadership team from how they behaved and managed their team, but it is at least understandable, and I think it's worth acknowledging these are extremely difficult circumstances. We will never know what could have happened if the team had a little bit more time to establish themselves and build the foundations of the business before it blew up and became insanely popular. Now, the last thing I want to share to close out this video is the key takeaway that everyone seems to be missing within the community and within the commentary I've seen around MetaZoo. And this was something that was so highlighted by this individual who reached out to me, which was that the vast majority of what people experienced working with or collecting or being a fan of MetaZoo had so little to do with the majority of the employees who were just doing their best to bring something special into the world. They shared that the negativity around MetaZoo and what they saw thrown at MetaZoo online was really difficult as an employee. And I think that's really the saddest part of this whole story, is all the people who have had these negative experiences along the way, not the least of which the employees who weren't the ones driving the decisions that have left so many fans and collectors upset. They just ask that everyone remember that the employees cared and did their best and are going through a lot now, and just to be kind and even show some support if you can. So here's support from me. Appreciate everything that those employees all did, and I'm sure they'll find many great new opportunities soon. And so with that, if anyone else is watching this and was involved with MetaZoo in any capacity and wants to speak to me, my Instagram DMs are open and I'm all ears. Otherwise, thank you as always for tuning into the TCG Buyers Club. My name's Gray, I buy cardboard, and I'll see you in the next video.